Hi, I'm Susan, and today I want to show you my Day of the Dead skulls, my sugar skulls. They're so fun. I love all these colors. They're a great way to use up your stash. I like to finish both sides of my skulls. It's just a nicer way if they flip or turn. See, both sides are finished. And I also like to reinforce these little teeth. They're just done basically with little balls of clay. And I bake them the first time. The second time I bake them, I put some liquid clay on top of it because this way I know they won't move. And then I rebake them again, and that's a perfect reinforcement. So if we use these in a bracelet or something, I don't have to worry about these coming off. Something you really do want to consider. So let's get started. This is pretty easy to do. Let me move that over. We're just going to take a piece of clay. I have a 1.5 inch circle cutter. You could have a shoe cutter, a heart cutter, any kind of cutter that you have that's about the approximate size. This is on a number 1 on the pasta machine. We're just looking to get them measured out. Basically, you want them all basically the same size. So if you use a cutter, like I said, no matter what the cutter is, it will give you the same approximate size. So once you make a ball, now make sure you get all of these little folds and things blended in. You can blend them with your finger like this, or you can just continue to really roll the heck out of it. Whatever way, it's the same result. So you want to make sure there's no seams or holes. And now what we're going to do is we're going to just pinch one end and flatten it so we get that skull shape. And here, I'll show you with my other ones about the approximate size I get. Here, I'll take one of these guys. I've just made these so they're wet. And you can see, we're just looking for that teardrop shape. Now, I use a ball tool. If you don't have a ball tool, you can use any type of tool to put the two eyes in. But you're just kind of giving yourself a little idea of where it's going to go there. Now, I have all these cane ends that I keep. I have a little box filled with all these little ends that I use to decorate stuff. Now, I usually will have one end that I cut that's got a bigger flower, and one end that I cut that has a smaller flower. I'll make this one just a little smaller so that I have the variety. So we're just going to take 2 flowers. Now, the way to get the petals to separate on these flowers is we're just going to push in between them at the end of the cane. Now, you're going to have to do this every couple cuts. There's no way that this line will stay, and it only takes a minute. It's worth the time. So we're just going to make 2 cuts to make our eye flowers. And we're just going to put these on our little skull. Oops. Now they don't have to be perfect. Let me flip them that way. So don't beat yourself up, and I'm just going to indent them a little bit more so I have some place to put the rhinestones. And if you don't have rhinestones, they look just as nice without rhinestones. These are just done with little balls of clay. So if you don't have the rhinestones, don't worry. I'm a blingy person. I like the rhinestones. Now, to make the nose, I use a very sophisticated tool, which is known as my old ballpoint pen. And I just put a little indent coming up, and then I take my needle tool and refine that just a tiny bit and add a little hole there. And then I use my other trusty, very expensive tool here, my gift card that I've covered in deli paper, and I just push that down just to make the mouth. So you don't have to do a whole lot there. Now, I like to take my leaf canes. I have a lot of leftover canes, so you can use any colors you have. I have a lot of green ones, as you can tell. I think I'm just going to do the green today because it's just sitting here and I can be quicker. These borings can be inspiring and boring because you just want me to hurry up so you can go and do it, and I get that. So I'm just going to slice up a bunch of leaves. Now, when you make these leaf canes smaller, don't pinch too far down because otherwise you don't know where the top of the leaf is, and you could get the wrong spot and it will look awful, and sometimes you just have to scrap the whole cane because you pinched it too much. And if you want to know how I learned that, exactly the hard way. And sorry about my snoring puppy. She's right on my lap. And so I'm just going to put some leaves all the way around the head. And that includes the back of the head. So many people forget to decorate the back of their beads. And to me, it's important that you decorate both sides. Now, if you don't want to decorate both sides, they're your beads. You don't have to. I feel it's important. I like the whole thing to be finished. I like if it flips around, or if you're like me and some mornings you're in a rush and you put it on backwards, it looks fine. Nobody can tell. So now we've got to put a few at the chin. And you can see how it's quickly coming together. Now most of your time is going to be spent making these flowers, but if you've already made a lot of flowers, this is, like I said, just a great way to use them up. So I just want to put a little flower here at the chin. Now, I don't like to make these flowers matchy-matchy. I like these to all be different. That is the cool part of the sugar skulls, is that the colors are bright and they're not matching. And that's what makes them so fun and so detailed. So I try not to get them with the same color themes. Now this little flower is a little broken. It's okay. He's going to fit in with that bouquet just perfectly. So don't worry about if you have a broken piece of flower. They can look more natural, actually. Sometimes people get hung up on everything has to be too perfect. Well, when you really look at a bouquet of flowers, not a lot of them are perfect. In fact, most of them aren't perfect, and that's what makes them so pretty. Okay, so we're going to throw some yellow in here, and once again, we're just going to indent in between these petals. And this is time consuming, but it is worth it. And after a while, sometimes you'll get wonky edges on your petals. I actually really like that. I don't worry about it. But then if you've watched me, you notice I don't worry about a lot of things. And so we just need one little flower in there, and that will help finish that in. Oh, and I could probably use one over there too. And now I just need to make some teeth. To make my teeth, I take a little snake of clay. And the reason I make a snake is it's sort of an easy way to measure. If you have a snake of it and you've cut all around the same size, it's like a pre-measured piece. And I use about 11 pieces for teeth. Sometimes I use 9. Just depends on how much I squished the clay. And for the teeth, all I'm going to do is roll these into tiny balls and push them down. Now, normally I would push these down with my fingers, but I haven't cut my nails back, and my nails are long, so they're going to leave an indent. So instead, I'm just going to use this rubber tool to push them down. Now, if you don't have rhinestones, you can just put little balls of clay in the eyes, but make sure you use some really contrasting colors. Like I wouldn't use colors that match here, so that it's much more contrasty. It just looks better. If you notice, I used the hot pink with the blue, and just real contrasty, so it looks much more obvious. I cannot wait to string these. I have so many ideas in my head. Actually, we could just leave those 4. That looks good. So for the eyeballs, oh, here's a pretty piece of pink. And once again, I'm just going to make it into a snake, because when I make it into a snake, or, well, for eyes you can make a ball too, because then it'll just, you can cut it in half. But now, if you don't have rhinestones, you can, if you have an old pin or something else that has some glass rhinestones in it, you can pop those out of that. But make sure you use glass rhinestones. If you use acrylic rhinestones in this, they will melt in the oven. So I'm using my trusty pen, and it's just a perfect way to squish those balls in. And I'm going to use a little bit of liquid clay just to fill the insides in, and then we'll put some rhinestones in there. But like I said, make sure you have glass rhinestones, because acrylic rhinestones will melt and make a disaster. Sometimes they burn. They're just not friendly little foes. And so here I have, these are about a 4mm rhinestone, or a PP 28 or 29. I don't understand the PP and the sizes of rhinestones, but if you want to buy these, if you go on eBay and punch in glass chantons, C-H-A-N-T-O-N, these will all pop up. The chantons are these rhinestones that have the points on the end instead of are flat. They're a lot more sparkly, and they're easier with clay because they have something to grip into the clay. Now, to skewer this, I don't skewer it up and down. I skewer it across like this. So I skewer it twice. Now, I don't bake it with the skewers in. I just was refilming before and showing how I skewer it. And that will give us plenty of ways to string this bead, because you can string it now on a bracelet, and then you have both sides so it won't wobble around. You can also string it from the top and come around to the side and come around to the other side and make fringe if you want. It just leaves you a lot more room if you skewer it that way. But if you want it to skewer it this way, feel free. It's just that it will spin, so just remember that. But that's all there is to it, and I hope you enjoyed that and have fun making lots of sugar skulls.